As government seeks to bring about legislative changes aimed at attracting investors, a new fiscal regime governing the energy sector are on the cards. This comes on the heels of the recent positive report issued by international credit rating agency Standard & Poor's, which outlines the energy industry as the key to sustaining long-term growth prospects and provide revenue for government to maintain moderate levels of debt. In his interview with News 4, Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine explains the paradigm shift the ministry is seeking to chart through a modernized fiscal regime as it moves to make Trinidad and Tobago more attractive to foreign investors.
If you examine every budget speech that has been made by the Ministers of Finance, two by Minister Winston Ducaran and one now by Minister Larry Hawaii, you would see a progressive relaxation in the fiscal regime as it relates to the energy sector. And that is a movement towards becoming more competitive. Because 20 years ago, we did not have a level of competition for foreign capital, for international capital that we have right now. At present, we compete for investment with Colombia, we compete for investment with Brazil, and we compete for investment with the west coast of Africa, particularly Angola and Ghana. So we have to become more competitive. The fiscal regime that governs the energy sector is so critical. And I think what of course we are doing in 2013 with regard to that is very critical for the future of this country.
This regime, while expected to offer incentives to possible investors tapping into new areas, targets achieving economic growth while at the same time maintaining the country's bottom line.
We are trying to make our fiscal regime more competitive, while at the same time not compromise our existing revenue base. So it will mean that new incentives will only apply to scenarios, for example, where a company decides to bring on new production. So it would not affect their existing production. And that is the general philosophy that we've been using, because we don't want to compromise in any way the revenue base of the Minister of Finance.
And as to how this will apply to state-owned energy companies Petrotrin and Trinidad, Minister Ramnarine says working alongside investors will aid in bringing these companies back to optimum level.
Petrotrin is subjected to all the tax laws that other companies are subjected to. So they will be expected to pay taxes in accordance with the law. And as you mentioned, the state enterprise sector, there are major milestones ahead for Petrotrin in the year 2013. One of those milestones being the completion, the long-awaited completion of the GOP, the Gasoline Optimization Program. And then, of course, there is the reactivation of the Southwest Soldado field, which has commenced and which will continue into 2013. And then there is the entire body of work to be done in Trinidad to bring Trinidad back to where its production levels should be. Trinidad was accustomed to producing over 35,000 barrels of oil per day as recent as 7 or 6 years ago. At present, it's producing 22,000 barrels of oil per day. And we believe that with the correct investment, we could bring it back to where it is supposed to be.
But while these changes will redound to the benefits of citizens through fuel subsidies, Minister Ramnarine says a change in culture must occur to the way we view our dependence on the sector. Such level of high subsidies, he says, can only be sustained based on global market prices.
We see CNG as being an essential component in the reduction of the fuel subsidy, which in the year 2012 stood at 4.4 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars.
In the final segment, Minister Ramnarine will outline some of the projects expected to be piloted this year with the potential to positively impact the country's economic growth.
We expect that the Mitsubishi dimethyl ether methanol plant will commence construction in late 2013. And this is an objective that we are working towards in this year.
Kimberly Ramcalawan, News 4.